Hi everyone, welcome back to the Mixed Concepts channel for another IRL cricket chat video. So I'm going to be talking about the most recent ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 Tri-Series that took place in Scotland, in Dundee. And the teams involved were Scotland, Netherlands, and Nepal. So usually when I talk about League 2 Tri-Series, it mainly involves USA Cricket because I'm a USA Cricket fan. However, this was probably the most insane, intense tri-series I have ever seen in ODI cricket so far, at least in my opinion. Because the games between these three teams, there were 6 games in total. Each team played 4 games. And every game had some or the other kind of twist. I know that few of the games ended a little one-sided. However, each game seemed to have its own twist in its own way. From start to finish, it really did. And some of the games that you see on the screen, these were the 4 of the best games in my opinion, from the neutral perspective. And I think these were the 4 best games of the Tri-Series as well. The other 2 games that I did not place here, they were good games, but they weren't as close as the games that are featured in this video. Well, I will talk about them as well. They're not really featured on the screen or in the thumbnail. So talking about the first game between Scotland and Nepal. Sorry about that. Scotland and Nepal. Scotland batting first, they scored 296 for 7. At one point, they were set to score 300, but Nepal bowled well, and they restricted them to 296 for 7. That's still not a bad score by any means, because 296 can be a tricky score to chase down. And it initially didn't prove to be that way. It seemed like Nepal were going well, and they were on track to chase down the target. But then all of a sudden, they had a collapse. Because at one point, they were 150 for 2, something around that. And then they all of a sudden fell to 192 for 7. With 3 wickets in hand, needing over 100 runs in about 11 to 12 overs. It seemed all over for Nepal. But Nepal, they are affectionately known as the Cardiac Kids. And that was just the first instance in this tri-series of the 4 games. I think the one game which I didn't feature in the screen that Nepal played in, that was probably the one game that didn't go this close or wasn't any intense. But this game went right to the last ball, didn't it? Karan Casey, Gulshan, what a partnership that was. They really brought back Nepal into the game, and it seemed like they even took the lead. The last over, they needed 7 to win, and then Karan Casey was not on strikes, and the Lamachana got out. Dakal struggled, but he managed to get Karan Casey on strike, and then it came down to 1 required of the last ball. And then it seemed like there was a run out because Cross did fumble the ball, the wicketkeeper, but then they ran the by, but Rejan Dakal was run out, and turns out it was a wide. I mean, an ending you may never see. How is it that a wide and a wicket? Yes, we've seen that before, that a bowler did bowl a wide, but there was also a run out. However, this was in a situation where it was 1 run required of the last ball. So, and there was only 1 wicket in hand as well. So if the wicket had counted, Nepal would have been all out for 297. But they scored more than Scotland. And that would be a very weird thing to see on the scorecard because they were batting second. So, I mean, the rules were there. And it really went down to that, didn't it? To decide that, yes, Nepal will win this game by 1 wicket because the umpire did call it a wide. And that overruled the run out that followed. What a game that was to start it off. Then the second game was probably the one-sided game, I think, between Nepal and Netherlands. Yeah, Netherlands, they got all up for 225. Wasn't going to be a big score, because that's not what really played out throughout the series, in my opinion. Yeah, 225 always seemed a little low. Nepal balled excellent to make Netherlands all out for 225. I mean, at one point, Nepal did try to make this interesting because that's what they love to do. I'm sorry if you're a Nepal fan watching this, but it does feel like in most of your games, when you're in a losing position, you just manage to come back really well and come really close or even win the game. And then when you're in a winning position, yeah, just somehow you let the other team come back. That's how it really feels like it. You just really goes back and forth, the Nepal games. And that's how it initially did seem, because they were 68 for 3, and then when Rohit Paudel got run out, another 100 runs needed in 20 overs, 6 wickets in hand. Yeah, Nepal was still favorites. And they got that bit of luck when Arif Sheikh was dropped. And he made them pay. He made the Dutch pay. He did get out eventually, but not before scoring an excellent 70 something, 78, I think, if I'm looking at the scorecard correctly. He made 78, not out. Oh, sorry, he did get out. But by the time he got out, it was a little too late for Netherlands to make a comeback. And that's how Nepal won that game. So they were 2 for 2 to start off. And then the third game was also kind of one-sided between Netherlands and Scotland. Yeah, Scotland, they were put into bat first. They did make 262 for 9, which is not a bad score. And especially the situation they were in. They were 97 for 6, so they had a really good comeback to get to 262 for 9. Yeah, good contributions from McCreath, Mark Watt, and Safian Sharif at number 10, scoring 36 of 18. That was a really good boost to the Scottish score. And at the end, that actually proved to be the difference because the Netherlands got all of a 218. They lost by 44 runs. And had Sharif's blitz not happened, or if he was out for 0, then Scotland probably would have scored 230 or 240 at best, which the Netherlands probably would have chased down because they would have had a target of at least 20 to 25 runs lower than what they ended up having to chase. And the Netherlands were in a good spot at one point, but they lost the wickets quickly. And from 95 for 3, they fell to 144 for 7. Of course, there was a little bit of a late twist when Roelof van der Merwe and Kyle Klein, they had a partnership. They tried to help the Dutch win, and then Paul van Meckeren as well scored 19. So it did come a little closer than the Scottish people would have liked, but at the end, 44-run win is still dominant. And yeah, the Dutch, they had lost the first 2 games. And then the fourth game was against Scotland-Nepal. I mentioned last time that USA and Oman should be a bilateral series. Well, maybe Scotland and Nepal should be one as well, because my goodness, the 2 games they played had some of the craziest things you would see. And the second game, Scotland batted first, 323 for 6 on the board. I mean, the last 10 overs, they scored over 120 runs, thanks to Michael Leask. He scored 96 of 62 not out. Even Richie Barrington got 100. He deserves a lot of credit for that too. And in a crazy turn of events, Scotland ended up getting 323, when at one point it looked like 300 would be the limit. And Nepal, their death bowling was not that great. The last 10 overs, their bowling was really poor. That's why they gave all those runs. Nepal, they did start well, but they did have that collapse again. Actually, I take that back. They didn't start well. They were 34 for 3. Yeah, they started off really poor. It was the opposite of the first game. But then they had a comeback with the partnership between Arif Sheikh and Bim Sharkey, but then they both got out, and it was 163 for 5. And when Ghosan Jar got out, it was 183 for 6. It looked all but over again. But as it is, the trend with the Nepal games, it's not over until it's over. Because they love to make it an interesting game, regardless from what position they're in. And that's what happened. And the way they came back into the game was incredible between and amongst the partnership between Dipender Singh Airi and Sompal Kami. It was 105 runs. And the crazy part was they weren't even hitting that many boundaries, even though the required run rate was 10 and over. They managed to put the Scotland fielders under pressure by running between the wickets. I have never seen a game where running between the wickets could cause so much chaos to another opponent. I really have not seen that before. They really converted ones into twos, and even when they hit it straight to the fielder and it looked to be a dot ball, they managed to get a single. And on a couple of wides, when the keeper had a fumble, they really took it on. They got a single, and they got some extra overthrows. They really made the Scotland fielders panic, did Nepal. Dipender Singh Airi and Sompal Kami, their running was crazy. They made Scotland panic, and then they got the boundaries from time to time, and all of a sudden, they were in a winning position. Nepal, until Sompal Kami and Dipender Singh Airi were out. Yeah, Airi made 56, Sompal Kami made 67. That was really good. Unfortunately for Nepal, Karan Casey, he couldn't replicate the heroics from the first game, where he made 65 not out. This time he was out for 17. And that was a crazy finish, wasn't it? He had it as well, 5 of 3. Unfortunately for him and Nepal, he was out. And then it came to the last ball, they needed 3 to win, and Lalit Rajbanshi on strike. And unfortunately, he was out clean balled, and Scotland won the game by 2 runs. But the fact that Nepal, they really brought it down to the last ball was crazy. And what was even crazier is this stat. Nepal had a higher T20I score than a higher ODI score until that game. The highest ODI score prior to the second game against Scotland was 310, apparently. And in this game, they were all out for 321, which is now their highest ODI score. Their highest score as a team was in a T20 against Mongolia, and they made 314. So they did break that, so that's good for them. But unfortunately, Nepal's best batting effort in ODIs came in a losing effort. They came in a losing cause. But nonetheless, I mean, really, really good performance. Just unfortunate to not be on the winning side. And Safyan Sharif, give him some credit too, because in the first few overs he balled, he was hit for a lot of runs. But when he was asked to ball the last over, 7 to defend, he did it. He showed his experience, and he was able to defend the 7 runs. Only gave 3 in the last over, which was ridiculous considering the situation and the pressure he must have felt while balling that last over. So that was game 4. The game 5 was between Nepal and Netherlands. So this was kind of a mid to low scoring thriller. Nepal batting first scored 236 for 9. They were a bit unlucky as well because they were charged 10 penalty runs. Well, it wasn't charged against them when they were batting. However, the Netherlands, they started at 10 for none without a ball being balled. And the crazy part is they still lost the game. The Dutch were all out for 220, so Nepal did really well to win the game despite the 10-run penalty. I did not see Nepal's batting, so I don't know where the penalty was given. Apparently, the batter ran on the pitch, but twice. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I mean, if you're a Nepalese fan watching this at this point in the video, please do comment down below why the 5-run penalty was given twice, and was it really valid? Because I'm not sure. But all's well that ends well for Nepal's point of view because they won the game, so you don't have to worry that the penalties really cost Nepal. But it definitely did make it more interesting than it would have been had the Dutch started at 0 for 0, because they would have lost by 26 runs in that scenario. But Arif Sheikh, the Iceman, proved again. He made 84. He helped Nepal get to 236. In fact, I think in the last 3-4 overs, they got the 30-plus runs, which might have helped Nepal to get to the score. I thought it was not going to be a big score, considering that 320 was nearly chased down the last time Nepal played. So 236 didn't seem big, but turns out that was enough to win, even with the 10-run penalty. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but Nandan Yadav, he came in right for Sampal Kami because Kami was injured and so was Gulshan Jah. That's why Bashir Ahmed came. But yeah, Nandan Yadav was very, very good. I was impressed with his bowling performance. That was the first time I've actually seen him play. He bowled well, got 3 wickets, and he helped Nepal win the game. He defended the runs. And then Sandeep Lamachane was back to his best, got 3 wickets. And the Dutch, they were in a good position. They were 96 for 2, but then they just kept losing wickets, and they fell to 136 for 6. And I think the moment that Nepal really won the game was when they got the wicket of Scott Edwards, because he is a really good batter. And as a USA cricket fan, he's annoying because he always seems to play that one type of innings which just helps the Dutch get more runs than they really should have got. And he would help them win games against the US. But good for Nepal that they managed to get him out before he would continue the same thing. And the Dutch did make it interesting, even though they were 136 for 6. They did bring it to 204 for 7. But at the end, both Kalkline and Van der Merwe, they did get out, and it was too much to do at the end for the Dutch to win. And they lost the game by 16 runs. So Nepal, they had a really good tri-series, considering the opponents they played, Scotland and Netherlands, and the position they were in the League 2 table prior to this series starting. winning 3 out of 4 games is a really good accomplishment on Scottish soil against Scotland and Netherlands. Hats off to Nepal. That was an excellent performance in this tri-series. They really could have been 4 out of 4 had they won against Scotland when they lost by 2 runs. And then the final game of the tri-series between the two good teams, Scotland and Netherlands. My goodness me, that was one ultra high-scoring thriller. I mean, Scotland, batting first, 369 for 6, thought that they would surely win this game because that is a mammoth total. George Munsey, he played the innings of his life, 191 on 150, the highest individual ODI score by an associate or a non-full member, a non-test playing nation batter. That was an excellent innings from him. But unfortunately, his innings went in vain because the Dutch chased it down. In 49.2 overs, they got it. They got to 374 for 6. Ridiculous. And it was Max O'Dowd who scored 158 or 130. And fittingly, he hit the maximum to win the game for the Dutch. That was one of the best games you could see. Right, and also good contributions from Teja Nidamanuru and Noah Cross, both scoring 50s. Matthew Cross also scored 50 for Scotland, but it just showed one batter just kept on going for their teams. And at the end, the others, the contributions from the Dutch batters, other Dutch batters apart from Max O'Dowd, were greater than the other Scottish batters apart from George Munsey. And that's why Netherlands won this game. The Dutch really needed to win this game because they hadn't won a game in the tri-series. They were 0 for 3. But having won this, they at least got one win. And they were able to get to 28 points and be tied with the USA for the first spot in the Cricket World Cup League 2 table. And as a USA cricket fan, I would say that this was probably the best result, apart from probably Nepal losing to Scotland. Otherwise, Nepal would have been on 14 points and Scotland would have only been on 22 points instead of 24. But they are still 2 wins away from the USA team and they are on 24 points, so 4 points away, having played the same number of games. So yeah, USA at the moment are still on top of the League 2 table, which is great news for me as a USA cricket fan. But of course, I think Scotland will play another tri-series soon. So it's very likely that they win at least 2 or 3 games and they manage to get to first spot after their tri-series. But you never know. I mean, if they have a bad tri-series like the Netherlands did in this one, then USA can stay on top for more time. But that's just something of hypothetical scenarios, and we will not know how the tri-series plays out until it actually plays out. So that'll be the end of this video. Even though I'm a USA cricket fan and these 3 teams, just and from a neutral perspective, it was a wonderful tri-series to watch. All 6 games were great in their own way, especially the 4 on screen were absolute thrillers. Well, that'll be it for this video. Thank you for watching this video all the way if you have just listened to me ramble. Please do like the video if you liked it and subscribe to the channel for more content. And until the next video, bye.